Hey, what's going on, good people? It's your girl T Hardaway. My other counterpart, Michael Basil, he's away at the moment, but we had to keep this party going. But he sends his love. Today we have another wonderful and illustrious guest. This gentleman, I went to school with him. We went to college together, and he's gone on to flourish into quite the professional. He's worked in the front office for many NFL teams. I think he did a small stint in college sports for a second as well. Y'all give it up for my guy Aubrey Grier. Aubrey, how are you, man?
Tyranny, it's been a great journey. Good to see you all as well. Thanks for asking. How about yourself?
Man, I can't complain. It's been bumpy, but I'm still here.
That's good. That's good to hear.
So, Aubrey, I asked you to come on today because, um, for several reasons. I followed your career. I've seen you go to some different teams, and I thought it was super dope. And there are a lot of people specifically from our community that are really into sports, but there's not a lot of exposure as to, the front office and the other positions that are not necessarily on the field. So I thought it
Mhm.
would be cool to kind of hear your story and hear how you got into this and, some of the lessons that you've learned, the ups and downs.
I appreciate it. No, it's been a blessing. I am very thankful for the journey. I've been fortunate to work in professional sports for over 10 years, and it's always been a dream of mine. I started my career in Atlanta with the Hawks. I was a part-time street team employee, and I was living in Chicago at the time. And my mentor was like, "Hey, you got to apply to these jobs on this website called teamworkonline.com." And that night, I applied to every job in a city I was interested in living in. So it didn't matter what the team was. If it was Atlanta, Chicago, New York, Philadelphia, DC, I applied. And the Atlanta Hawks were the first team to reach out. And I left Chicago for an interview, not for a guaranteed job, not for a certain salary. They said, "Hey, we got this interview open. Are you available?" I was like, "Yep." So I packed all my stuff and I traveled down to Atlanta for an interview, got the job, and the rest is history.
Wow. So you didn't even have a guaranteed position. You was just on faith.
Didn't need it. Didn't need a guarantee. My plan A is to make sure that I never have to worry about plan B. So um, I stuck with it. I was confident, excited, um, and it worked out. So thank God.
Straight up. Okay. So, I mean, tell us your story. You started out with Atlanta, but how has your career progressed?
So the community that you mentioned, working in the front office of sports is a very tight one. A lot of people know a lot of people. To break into the industry, it definitely is tough. It's super competitive, and you also have to realize you have to produce. I didn't get to where I'm at because I'm liked. I didn't get to where I'm at because I knew people. I got to where I'm at because I produced, and I'm in a producing business. So you have to be willing to learn. You have to be coachable. You have to be disciplined. You have to be flexible. You have to be a team player. You have to be willing to learn the new technology. You have to adapt to the trends. And you have to be able to work with people over long periods of time. And those are skills that have to be learned. You're not going to necessarily walk into a job day one and just get it all together. So I had a lot of growing to do. And I attribute that to my personal life. I went through a lot of turmoil, went through a lot of like ups and downs, but that helped me professionally. And that's why, I feel like I've been blessed to be in this industry for so long that's dominated by people who don't look like me, having success, being able to feed my family. And it's been a lot of fun. It's very rewarding. Throughout this time, leaving the Atlanta Hawks, I went to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and I was with the Bucks for 8 seasons. And during that time frame, I was fortunate enough to win a Super Bowl. So the Super Bowl was played at our stadium. Went to the parade. I was on a boat. I got a ring. Like, it was an incredible experience. And from there, I left the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I did do a stint in college. I went to the Aspire Group to work for Morgan State in Baltimore, Maryland. And then from there, an opportunity opened up for me to join the Washington Commanders. At the time, they were still named the football team. So I was able to get on board before they did the whole transition and the rebrand. And I saw what that looked like behind the scenes. And it's been an incredible experience. And I'm coming up on a year now with the Commanders. And it's been a blessing. It's been a dream come true. Kid from Richmond like myself don't really get opportunities to do things like this. So I like to believe that I'm holding it down for all the brown boys who look like me from the areas that I'm from, dealing with the same things that I dealt with to get to this level.
That's super dope. Super dope. And I was just about to ask you where you from. Is that Richmond, Virginia?
Yep, Richmond, Virginia. Grew up there. Once I graduated high school, I never looked back. A lot of people don't know this, but when I graduated high school, Bethune-Cookman and Norfolk State were the two colleges that accepted me. Bethune-Cookman was in Florida, never heard of it before. It was in Daytona Beach. I got the brochure and I was sold. So I know a lot of my counterparts, they were flown down to Florida. My parents packed their dorms up, took them to Walmart. I caught the Greyhound bus by myself, 18 hours.
Wow.
Yeah. And before there was an Uber or a Lyft, I caught a cab from the bus station to Bethune-Cookman with my luggage, found my dorm, and just figured it out from there. So it's been a crazy journey.
Wow. Okay. You never know. You never know a person's story till they tell it.
Yeah.
Um. So let me just ask you about that. What? Because it seems like just from your story, from the little bit of pieces that you've told so far, it seems like you've always had a high level of perseverance, um,
Yeah.
and a high level of drive. So, where do you think that comes from?
It from birth. I was blessed with the ability to overcome adversity. I was blessed to go through some trials and tribulations at a very young age. And I like to believe you're either going to sink or swim. And I had to swim very early. I suffered some tough things in my life through my personal family, mom, dad, my brothers. So I had to go through a lot of things to get to this point. So I was mentally tough.
Mm.
Even though I didn't have much life experience at the time, I was mentally prepared for all the ups and downs that life would bring. I was working since I was 14 years old. Um, I was adopted. I lived with my great aunt for about 11 years before I got to college. So I've seen it all, been through it all, and I've been blessed to be able to overcome. That's just how I'm built. I'm Richmond resilient, as they say.
Richmond resilient. I like it. I like it. Okay. So I'm gonna go back to your career a little bit, and then we're gonna task back and forth. Um, so what is it that you do for the Commanders?
So my title is Senior Manager of Membership Services. My role is to oversee a team of account executives that manage accounts. So these accounts are people who are season pass members. They purchase tickets to go to all of the home games. We have 10 home games. So our job is to make sure they're enjoying their experience and also create once in a lifetime opportunities for them to really feel valued. So we game plan on how to be proactive. We game plan on how to be intentional. We game plan on how to anticipate if something goes wrong to be able to be thinking through how to overcome that, how to resolve issues. And we're client facing a lot. So making sure that the guest experience is the best it can be in all sports and entertainment. So that's what I do on a regular basis.
So the way I translate that is y'all keep the big dollar people in the building. I like
Yes.
it. Y'all keep the important people in the building. I love it.
100%.
All right. Um, so you told me that you've football, you've worked in football, you've been in the front office, you've obviously risen to the level of senior manager. You started at the street team level, so you worked your way up. But how did you even pick the NFL? Like, how did you know that's what you wanted to do?
I always love sports. I always play sports. It's something that I bonded with my relatives with. It's really how I bonded with my dad. So I was always just amazed with what game day looked like. Playing sports, I love hearing my name being called. So it captured me early. And when I was at Bethune-Cookman, I was a journalism major. So I was going to all the games, interviewing the coaches. I was always on the sideline. So it was a part of how I identified myself. So naturally, when the opportunity presented itself, to me, it was a no-brainer. It's how people knew me. It's how I like to be. It's the atmosphere I always wanted to be around. So when my playing days ended, I realized I had to pivot. And so I didn't realize that there was opportunities to make a career working in the front office. And I always felt like I was a natural people person. I was a go-getter. and I had a sales background. So when I learned that you could be an account executive by selling packages for teams, making commission, being able to have a base and continue to grow, it was the calling for myself. And now it's not a job, it's not a career, it's my lifestyle. When you think of Aubrey, people think of either sports, NBA, NFL, Super Bowl. And I've loved that. That's the reputation that I built for myself.
Absolutely. You're definitely one of the only people I know working in professional sports in any capacity. So I think it's dope. I think it's phenomenal.
Thank you.
When you were in college, what did you do to kind of set yourself up for success for something like this?
I didn't really focus on success. I thrived on having a good time all the time.
Right.
So working basketball games, working football games was just always something that I just thought was fun. And I didn't consider it work. I love being able to interview players. I love media day. I love having the camera. I love being in front of the camera. So it was just something that I always was drawn to, being able to have access to the studio. And again, I'm fortunate enough to be able to make it a career. And it's been a blessing. It's been very rewarding. But I was just always where things was happening, if that makes sense. So if there was a game on campus, Aubrey would be at the game. If there was a game at the field, Aubrey would be at the game on Saturdays, and you would have to get there early. So punctuality was a must in this industry, and that's something that always stood out. And just being available. I never said, oh, I can't come on this Thursday night to cover a basketball game. I can't cover a volleyball game. I can't cover a softball game. I was happy to go to the games. I was happy to be doing something that I love being a part of. So it was just a calling, I would say.
They say the best ability is availability. That's how you get
100%.
that's how you get those opportunities. You got to be in the place.
You got to be in the place, 100%. So when professors would be like, hey, we need someone to cover a game, I always raise my hand, volunteer, and I'll be there. So having a press pass, I just felt empowered to be like, man, I'm really doing something. So it was a blessing.
So, since you were a communications major and you were interacting like in front of the camera, did you ever want to do that in the NFL?
Yeah, graduating from college, you get so juiced up. You got the degree, you got all the experience, and you got the skill set. You the next best thing. So, like I said, when I first started, I was living in Chicago, and at the time, Chicago was a top 3 market in the nation. So I was going applying to all these TV jobs, thinking I'm gonna be the next Stuart Scott, and they're looking at me like, we don't hire people fresh out of college. That's just not what we do. So I'm like, oh man, for real? So it was my reality check. And I was able to pivot to the front office on the business side. And now that I'm getting older and I have all this experience on the front side, I am pivoting to start getting back in front of the camera. As I mentioned to you, I want to start my own podcast speaking about my experiences to other minority professionals who've been doing this, who've won championships, who've had a lot of cool, unique experiences. Because, like you said, there isn't a lot of people talking about what happens behind the scenes. When you
That's
see
right.
people talk about sports, it's the players, the coach, it's what happens on the field. But there's millions of unique stories that happen off the field, off the court, that no one talks about. And I want to be the first to bring it to light, especially for minorities, people who went to HBCUs, people who you just would never realize got cool, unique stories. And I think it's a underutilized medium, and I'm excited to be able to talk about this subject.
Are you ready to announce the name yet, or are you still holding off?
Yeah, right now the name would be Sweet Life Sports with Aubrey Grier. I'm working on an acronym right now, but I have a lot of people in the industry that I've connected with. My network is deep with a lot of great folks that I'm excited to interview and have a platform similar to this. And I'm looking to get that running by the start of the year.
All right, now y'all heard it here first. Make sure y'all tune in to my man's podcast, man. We trying to grow this community.
Oh, that's love. That's
Oh,
love. I
for
appreciate
sure.
that.
It's space for everybody. Uh, Space for everybody. Um, so okay, so you were in Chicago. They swerved you and said, "Nah, we not hiring for that. But you can come here and do something else."
Yeah.
And so okay, so now then you've moved to the front office. Um, has your career been a straight line? Because I mean, you pretty much stepped up, up. But has it been a straight line, or have there been any unexpected turns that you weren't expecting?
There's been a few unexpected turns, but you got to roll with the punches. There's going to be a timeline that you have in your mind of what you think your career should go or how fast you should progress and navigate through this space. But you have to understand you're going to be one of one. You're going to be the only one in rooms that look like you. The front office is not as diverse as you would think it is when you look at the field or the courts. So you have to be able to understand atmosphere. You have to be able to understand politics. You have to be able to use leverage, your skill set. You always have to prove yourself. One of the most used quotes in my industry is every day is your interview. So you got to understand you're competing with the best of the best of the best. The folks that go to the UCLAs, the Michigans, they got the resume, they got the background, they come into the job and they're ready to run things. So you constantly have to evolve. So yeah, like it hasn't been easy. You have to ride the wave. And I've been fortunate enough to humble myself. I've gotten frustrated, but I didn't let it derail me. I didn't let it stop me. I had to learn how to continue to grow and reinvent myself. So that's something that I'm proud to say that I do have longevity. A lot of my counterparts, they do get burned out. They do get frustrated. They do pivot to other industries. And I've been, again, fortunate enough to feed my family, to start a family, to be a homeowner and do a lot of unique things that a lot of my counterparts will not ever be able to experience because of those frustrations or difficulties they had to navigate in this space. So I'm very fortunate and I don't take it for granted.
You mentioned something interesting when you started naming off all these different universities that your colleagues went to. Do you think that do you think that going to an HBCU prepared you mentally for what you were going to face outside in the world?
I know this is gonna sound biased, but I think it gives you an advantage.
Okay.
Especially now. HBCUs are really getting a lot of shine. They're in the forefront of a lot of great publications. Just for example, last summer I was fortunate enough to go to ESPN's Black College Sports Symposium in Atlanta, and it was an incredible experience. It felt like I was at a family reunion, a homecoming, and it reminded me of my resume. Like I know it may seem that I'm very outgoing and bashful, but I'm a little humble when it comes to the success that I've had. And I was walking around and so many people's like, I know you're from LinkedIn. I've seen you do this, that, and the third, or you was with this. Like, oh crap, like you're right. I have done so much. So like going to an HBCU and getting that deeply much needed love really helped me spread my wings and like stand out. I always believe you're not meant to fit in. You're meant to stand out. So I appreciate that my school isn't as familiar as other people may want it to be, or they may not be familiar with where Bethune-Cookman is. But I'm a proud Bethune-Cookman Wildcat. I'm a proud mass comm major. I love the fact that I have a unique story. And I think that it's more captivating when you say a school that's not well known and you get to introduce it for the first time. And sometimes I get to introduce it every time because a lot of people aren't familiar with it. So I think it does give you a slight advantage. So you're not just a cookie cutter cut out from, one of those bigger schools that more people are well known, that's more well known, I'm sorry.
No, I have this conversation with some of my other friends, and I always tell them like I'm very happy that my undergraduate experience was at a HBCU because when I did step into the working world, I was grounded.
Mm-hmm.
I had just spent all this time around all this Black excellence, so I didn't feel like one in the crowd. I felt like a representative for my people, and that's a
Mm-hmm.
very different feeling.
Yep.
Um, and I have some other friends who, they came out of different situations, went to different schools, and they were like, "What am I gonna do?" Like they're all frazzled. I'm like, "We're gonna
Yeah.
survive, like we always do.
Yep. Yep.
That's what we do."
Yes,
Um,
indeed.
so okay, so how has your experience been? I mean, I know everything is not all great, and how has your experience been?
There's been some frustrations for sure. This isn't the industry you're gonna like become a millionaire doing. You have to definitely understand that it's gonna be a lot of hard work. It does look like I'm having a lot of fun. I'm at all the home games. I get to wear the suits and get the lanyards, and it's all lit and glamour on social media. But behind the scenes, we're grinding, we're working, we're having a lot of difficult conversations. We're, constantly trying to retain. And when you're in the industry that I'm in, you're retaining revenue. So prices changes, experience changes, the everyday fan changes. So we have to learn our consumer. We have to understand what the new trends are. We have to understand why people buy. So we're constantly training, we're constantly involved, we're constantly trying to make sure that the experience is getting better and better. And it's hard to recreate the best experience when it's a live experience that you can't control. You can't control what happens on the field. You can't control if the weather is good. You can't control if your food at the stadium isn't great. So you always have to look to improve in certain ways, and you always have to find good talent. Retaining good talent is a challenge, especially in today's economy when the pandemic flipped the world upside down. The pandemic provided so many different options of how people get paid, and now people are going to industries they never considered. So we saw a lot of people leave the sports industry because of the grueling schedule, and you have to evolve. So it's a challenging job, and there are some dark days, some difficult times, and you make a lot of sacrifices. You make a lot of sacrifices for your family because you miss a lot of time because the season in NFL or the NBA, it's never ending. Once the season ends, we're right to the off season. We hosting events. We're getting in front of people. I do a lot of client facing, so I'm doing a lot of out of office meetings. So it's a grind, and you legit become a workaholic. And I can see how sometimes your family misses out. You miss events. You can't go on vacation sometimes. And my wife and my kids, they have to arrange their schedule to accommodate mine. So it's definitely tough in those terms. And then you hope you're winning. I was with the Bucks for a while, long before the Super Bowl. When we were 2-14, we were 4-12. A lot of people didn't like going to the games, and you still got to sell that product. You still have to confidently persuade people to spend their discretionary income to come out to games, support a team when there aren't many wins. And it's a roller coaster ride, but that's the thrill of sports. That's what I'm chasing. It gets me excited, and again, it's been 11 years that I've been working in this industry. So I still get excited. I still get pumped up, and I convince myself every morning that I get to do what I'm doing. I don't have to go to a job. I don't have to go to some place that I don't like. I love the people that I work with. I love the industry that I work in. And I slightly believe that I have the cool job amongst my friends where if anything happens, it's on ESPN. My text messages are blowing up. My DMs are going crazy. Oh my God, I saw this about your team. I saw this about your team. What's going on? What does this mean for you? Have you met so and so and so? So I'm excited to, again, I get to do what I'm doing, and it's a blessing.
That is so dope. That is so dope. Gosh, man. That's dope. Um, so when you said it's a grueling schedule, I know you said off season you're still working. What does a normal day for you look like?
A normal day for me is you drive into the stadium. That's where our offices are. You have an agenda, like you have a daily task each and every day. So the first thing you do is you host a little quick huddle to go over success stories with your team, to go over constant objections that they're hearing, and to really map out what their day looks like based on what's priority. Right now, we're working on renewal, so that's retaining the accounts that we have to get them back on board to plan for 2023. So that's scheduling meetings on game days, that's reaching out to people through the phone, email, texting them, handwritten notes. That's making sure that their members are compliant on their packages, and just working with different strategies of how to attack it. So you got to prioritize what type of client you're going to reach out to first. Who is your biggest at-risk person? So identifying the different buckets of who to proactively reach out to, also being strategic with the messaging. You're not going to say the same thing to different clients. So being able to be proactive, being able to anticipate their objection, whether it's, oh, I'm moving out of town, I lost my job, financials changed, I got a baby on the way. So it's different things you have to anticipate to be prepared to have a conversation, even if it's not good news. Oh, I had a recent change in my family. This person that I used to come out to games with moved away. You have to be able to attack it, even though they're giving you bad news. So you constantly got to be on. And then from there, you meet with the other leadership teams to work together on how we can have an event that would get people to get on board or prepare people to retain their membership. So it's constantly trying to figure out how we can be more efficient and effective, reaching out to different clients, potential clients, on a regular basis.
Okay. That sounds like a tiring day. Uh, a lot of interaction, a lot of talking,
Yes.
a lot of
Yes.
energy expelled. Um,
Yes.
when you got behind the curtain and actually got to wear the shield and all that kind of stuff, was there anything that surprised you about working in the NFL?
Nothing really surprised me. Like, I legit was fortunate enough to work for two great organizations prior to getting to the Commanders. Two organizations that is the leader in how they have their front office run. The Atlanta Hawks, world-class organization, can't say enough about them. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers, world-class organization, can't say enough about them. So I was mentally, physically, and emotionally prepared for the grind of the NFL. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of people. It's a lot of events, game day, being around 60,000 people every weekend, hoping that the play on the field is matching up with the work that we do on the behind the scenes. So it's a lot, working with different departments. One day you're in a meeting with someone from marketing to produce a commercial that can advertise a new player or a new event or a new product. And the next thing, you're in a meeting with the CEO of the company talking about best strategies to make sure your staff is doing this. Then you're talking to someone from another department. So it's a lot of meetings to prepare for what's next. You got to move quick. You win a game, you got to capture the highlights. You got to be able to send that to your members so they can get excited about the next game. You have game themes, you have different causes. It's definitely a lot, but I was prepared for it. I love being busy. I love having an impact on people's lives. And I always tell myself, it's always someone's first, last, and only. And because of that, that keeps me going. I was a kid who didn't go to a lot of professional games, mainly because growing up in Richmond, Virginia, we didn't have any professional sports teams. You either had to drive 3 hours to Washington, D.C., or you had to drive 3 hours to go to North Carolina. So we had a lot of minor league teams in my community, but no professional teams. So I always think to that little kid who loved sports, and I get to go to games now, and it's crazy that the connections that I've built, I've been able to go to a lot of different stadiums, a lot of different arenas, have a lot of different experiences that, again, growing up in Richmond, I couldn't have dreamed of being able to do some of the things that I've been fortunate enough to do and share that with my kids. So um, it's a blessing.
All right now. Um, you were in the league. You not in the league. I'm acting like you playing. You were working in the league.
Yeah.
You were working in the league during like the Colin Kaepernick things and all the
Oh my
social justice
goodness.
issues that were going on. So what was that time like? What was
Oh
the
my
atmosphere?
goodness. How much time do you have, Tyranny?
All the
Um,
time you got.
being an African American male during that time frame was crazy. My wife is Black, my friends are Black, went to an HBCU, and it looked like it was a very, very problematic, like, it was just crazy. People on Facebook, how could you work in the NFL? How could you support the owners?
Really?
They're thinking the players are slaves, and it was controversial. It was crazy. Like, you had your personal feelings, you're hearing the fans' perspective. And at the time, the Bucks had two players that did kneel. And I'm on the front line, so I'm taking calls from people who did not agree with players kneeling. And then I go home to my personal life, and it's like, how do you do this, that, and the third? It was crazy. Um, I never really publicly spoke about it because I feel like sometimes that just ignites more drama than necessary. It was a very conflicting time. It was tough because you had to think about, what do you stand for, how do you represent yourself, and I'm the type of person that I prioritize my family first. I can't go on a tangent and act crazy when things don't go well put my career in jeopardy and be out of a job because those same folks who was rah, they're not gonna help you pay the bills.
And
So
they're not gonna start a GoFundMe or nothing.
no. So at times I felt like a sellout. At times I felt like maybe this isn't for me. This is tough. This is crazy. People was talking to me crazy and reckless. But like nothing in life is perfect. No relationship, no job, no car, no house. Like there's going to be ups and downs, trials and tribulations in anything you do, especially if you're trying something new. So it was a difficult, challenging time, but we got through it. My love for football hasn't changed. Controversy and drama still going on, and you realize that life goes on. And luckily, again, I contribute a lot of my positive thinking and mental toughness to my personal life. Having to go through so much, having to overcome so much, prepared me for adversity in the workplace, adversity in my personal life. And you continue to persevere, you continue to overcome, and you get through it. So kneeling, ownership, talking crazy to players, racism, people's feedback, you understand that this is temporary. You understand that this is just trending right now. People will get through it. You can't convince everyone to think the same way. Black people, white people, people gonna always have something to say. And that's what I learned from that whole thing. People just gonna be people.
First of all, I can't believe people were calling you like you were one of the players.
Oh my goodness. It was rough.
I wouldn't have even thought to call you like, hey, by the way, you in the front office. This is your fault.
Oh yeah. You pick up the phone, they're gonna tell you a piece of their mind. And they don't care if you white, blue, male, female, it doesn't matter. They're gonna share their feedback passionately.
Oh my goodness, whatever. Anyway, so you talked about some of the obstacles that you have had to overcome. Do you mind talking more about that?
Yeah, so growing up in Richmond, I'm a product of the kids being born in the 90s. Richmond was, at the time, growing up, one of the top murder capitals in the nation. A lot of murders was happening in Richmond, a lot of drugs, a lot of people going in and out of prison. So my parents, they struggled with substance abuse. They were addicted to a crazy drug, and because of that, my lifestyle was crazy. I've seen my parents go to prison. I had to put my hand on the glass multiple times for my mom and for my father. My great aunt adopted me for 11 years. So from elementary school to high school, I was raised with my great aunt. So I was raised with my cousins. I was away from my brothers. And during that time frame, my parents were in and out of prison, but they were never stable enough to like get me with them or to adopt me back from my great aunt. So I got to my junior year of high school. My dad finally was stable enough to adopt me back from my great aunt, but I had to go to court and I had to tell the judge who I wanted to live with. That was tough. Because being with my aunt for so long, knowing that I longed to bond and be with my dad, he's out, he's clean, he's working, it's time. It broke her heart and it broke my heart to have to make that decision. So my final 2 years, I was with my father, but that was rocky. He was, still caught up in the same old habits, same old lifestyle. And it was just crazy and chaotic. It was just always something going on. But it made me mentally tough. It made me mentally prepared for what life had to come in the future. So luckily, in that time frame, I went to 3 different high schools in 3 years. I graduated on time. I played on 3 different football teams with 3 different coaches. So it was just crazy. A lot of just craziness going on. So I didn't have like the traditional one high school, all 4 years, putting together film to send to college to potentially play. It was just crazy. So I graduated, applied to multiple schools. I got accepted into 2, and I knew that I always wanted to get away. I knew that I always wanted to get away. I knew that Virginia just was not going to keep me. So Bethune-Cookman was a miracle. I'd never heard of Bethune-Cookman before. I don't know how they found my address. They sent me a brochure. I applied, they accepted me, and the rest is history. And the reason why I wanted to get so far away, because I didn't want anyone to follow me. I didn't want anyone to come to campus looking for me, embarrassing me, asking for money, or getting caught up in any of that. I just wanted to start a clean slate. And I didn't want that reputation to follow me. I didn't want people to know that my parents were addicted to substances in and out of prison. Like, I just wanted to be Aubrey. I didn't want to be so and so's son, or I know who your daddy is, or I saw your mama doing XYZ. Like, so I wanted a clean slate and I wanted to get away from it all. And Bethune-Cookman, it saved my life. Like, it allowed me to see us in a whole new light. Seeing people with traditions, having their parents on buildings, freshmen coming to Bethune in Benzes and not struggling. That was my first time seeing that many Black people not having to struggle, coming from two-parent households. Like, it was planned for them to go to Bethune-Cookman. Like, it wasn't just on a whim. Like, they knew, like, okay, I have a tradition, I have a lineage, I'm a legacy, I have history. Like, I got to Bethune-Cookman and I wasn't expected to graduate. I was just happy to go.
Wow.
I was just happy to get in college and be away. Like, I legit looked at it as a brief vacation, just to get away, clear my head. And fortunately, by the grace of God, I was able to graduate in 4 years. And it was the best 4 years of my life. I thank Bethune-Cookman for everything. It just allowed me to grow up. It allowed me to have peace. It allowed me to just not have to worry. And I still have a little bit of that in me. My wife gets on me all the time because she feels like, you're always on vacation. You're just always having a good time. Like, you don't ever let anything bother you. It's like, because if you know what I've been through to get this peace of mind, to not have to look over my shoulder, to have stability. Um, you mentioned a lot about first generations, and like, I'm the first generation in my family to be able to do the things that I'm doing, and I'm still the first doing a lot of things that no one else in my like immediate family have been able to do. So it's a blessing. And I used to tell my brother this all the time, like, just because it hasn't happened yet doesn't mean you can't be the first one to do it. And I firmly believe that. And I'm still chasing a bunch of firsts because I have people in my family that are still serving sentences in prison. And again, I get to do this while they're serving a life sentence. They're still writing me letters, being positive, encouraging me. So I owe it to people like that to live my best, full, true life, to seek joy and to not complain, to not get caught up in the nonsense, and to live a positive life. And I'm just excited about what the future holds. I'm excited about what's next, and I'm always seeking the next big opportunity. So I'm fearless in that regard. So that's why I don't have any animosity to my dad. I don't have any animosity to my mom, because they did the best they could with what they had, with what they experienced. And trauma on top of trauma, on top of bad decision, on top of bad decision compounds. So they just were living their truth, and that prepared me to not make the mistakes or go down the path that they went through. So my dad is the strongest man that I know. We have a great relationship. He has taught me a lot of life lessons that Bethune-Cookman, the Washington Commanders, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, the Atlanta Hawks could never teach me. And it was my experience going through that that helped me make a better life for myself, and be a certain father to my son. So everything is cyclical. Like, his tough lessons, whether it's unorthodox or not, helped me prepare to be the man that I am today. So I don't have any regrets. I don't have any animosity. I don't have any hatred. Things happen, whether you can explain them, whether or not. Like, and our people in general, we're plagued with misplaced blame and guilt. So I don't want to fall down that path of, I couldn't be because the person before me was never X. Like, I don't believe that. Misplaced blame and guilt prevents a lot of people from doing a lot of great things, and I refuse to let that cycle continue. So it starts and stops with me, and I take that responsibility with a lot of regard.
At what point did you get to that place of understanding that, like that there
Bethune
was
Cookman. Bethune
wow,
Cookman. I thought I had a story. Tyranny. I thought that I had every reason to gripe and be mad and be angry and be frustrated. But I met someone who also had a story that was just as great as mine. And I was like, holy shit, I'm sorry, it's not just me. Like it's multiple people that are going through everyday things, and it allowed me to be more positive about my situation and learn from it versus every time something goes wrong, or it's because of this person couldn't send me no money. It's because I had to do everything by myself. It's because no one, I understand that, everyone goes through something, whether you can see it or not. Scripture tells you don't have to look like what you've been through.
come
And
on now.
so, um, and that allowed me to like soften some of the things and the anger that I did have. And over time, you realize they're just people.
Yeah.
My dad, my mom, they're just people who were going through life based on their perspective. And you can learn from it and grow, or you can let it keep you. And I was able to choose a positive way. So I'm thankful for that.
Mm, that's powerful, bro. Somebody gonna be blessed by your story for real.
I
Seriously,
appreciate
all jokes aside.
I
Um,
appreciate that.
so at this point in the game, what motivates you?
Everything. I love podcasts. I love motivational speeches. I'm listening to Eric Thomas. I'm listening to everybody. Like I get motivated by the littlest things, my kids, my wife, the competitive industry that I work in. Every year, almost every semester, we get a new crop of recently graduated students that are hungry. And I want to be the best. I want to train the best. I want to prepare the best. I want to prepare the next group of leaders. So I want to prepare them to be mentally tough. I want them to be emotionally tough. And I want them to understand that things aren't going to always go well. So how do you pivot? How resilient are you? Um, yeah, so like I'm just motivated by life. I get to wake up each and every day and I find the opportunity and I'm excited for whatever's next.
It sounds like y'all have the same competitive energy in the front office as they do on the field.
You have to. It's a very cutthroat industry.
Wow.
Again, it's what have you done for me lately? They do not keep me around because they like me. They don't keep me around because I have a nice smile. They keep me around because I produce. And if I start producing, I will no longer be in the NFL. So you constantly have to evolve. You constantly have to improve. You constantly have to update your skill set, and it's a grind. And if you're not mentally prepared for that, you're in the wrong industry.
Well, I'm not getting in your industry, but kudos to you. I'll keep podcasting. Uh, so, do you have any regrets?
Um, no, I'm not one to have regrets. I firmly believe everything happens for a reason, good, bad, or indifferent. Throughout this journey, I've definitely faced more adversity. Working for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, I lost two brothers to murder in 2 consecutive years, 2015, 2016. Both were murdered in Richmond. In college, back in 2008, I lost my mom to cancer. So um, I would like to say I would regret not spending more time with them, but as I got older, I realized that some things are inevitable. It did take me a while to bounce back from my younger brother being murdered because recently he was actually in Tampa with me. And then going back home, it happened like not too long after that. So I told myself if he was here, he wouldn't have been
Yeah.
in that situation. And it really tore me apart. But again, I feel like if he was in Tampa with me, that would have had a ripple effect somewhere else down the line. So it really is tough to look at life that way, but you have to get through it somehow. So yeah, like no regrets, but like adversity just doesn't stop. Just because one aspect of your life is going well, or the perception of your life based on social media is going well, doesn't mean that your personal life can't be in turmoil. So losing two brothers working for the Bucks, having to explain that to my coworkers why I'm missing work or why I'm not in the office was just a wake up call for them to be like, man, like this version of Aubrey doesn't match up to the reality that Aubrey is going through. And it's like how, like, I can confidently say no one that I work with will ever experience losing two brothers to murder, having an older brother serving a life sentence, and losing a mom to cancer in this industry. I can honestly say that I would never meet anyone else who went through those things, and not doing that to brag, but that's just a glimpse of what I experience in my personal life, but I don't let that impact my professional life. So you have to be able to know when to be at work and knowing when you can do things at home. So it's not selling out, it's not doing it for the man, it's understanding that I'm a professional, there's a time and a place. You have to be able to compartmentalize, adversity and disaster, and it's just it's a balancing act. So I have to be there for my children, I have to be there for my wife, I have to be there for my job. I have responsibilities, and I can't just let adversity prevent me from progressing, moving on. And that's not what they would have wanted for me. They wouldn't have wanted me to just pack it up and move back to Richmond to do what? Like, I can't revenge their murder. So I have to move on. I have to understand that I would never forget them. I will honor them by being able to be as successful as I can. But again, I don't have any regrets. It's just lessons that I've learned along the way, and it's all perspective.
Mm. Do you ever have a hard time, or not even a hard time? Do you ever think about that, like being a black male professional, having been from the neighborhood, I'm assuming, um, and the duality that you have to play of being the professional and still having to, deal with the things that are a part of your life, because you didn't come from money.
100%. Like, in our community, you see people celebrating what being like cool, being down. You being black means you have to be tough. Being a black male means you have to be cool. You have to be athletic. You have to get girls. You have to be all those things to prove that you're worthy. And it's exhausting. It's exhausting. In addition to that, you have to be a provider, you have to be a professional, you have to get your degree, you have to drive the latest car, you have to be in shape, you have to constantly do all these things to prove to society, to yourself, to your peers. You get caught up in that. And social media doesn't make it any better. With Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, like, you're constantly comparing yourself to someone else, or you're trying to outdo someone else, and it's nerve wracking, and that's where you have all these mental health concerns popping up in these conversations, because it's like I'm competing with people I never met, but I see them on Instagram, and it's like, man, I got to do better than that person, or I got to have more money than this person, I got to have a nicer car. So it's a lot of those little things that mentally you do think about, but you got to have a good circle of people around you that love you for you. Mm. So I like to believe the people that I do have around me, they uplift me, they support me, they love me, and they deposit all that I give out. And that's important as well. It has to be reciprocated. You have to be able to be around people who are not competing with you, that want to see you win, in addition to support you as well. So I love my group of friends. I love my support system. I love my chat groups, my text message groups. And it's definitely been some dark days, but a lot of them helped me get through some of those dark days. And I'm very grateful for that.
Aubrey, you got me over here about to shout, man. I can't be talking to you now. Oh no. Thank you. I appreciate the transparency, man. So who are you outside of working? Like, who is Aubrey?
Aubrey is a husband. My wife and I will be celebrating 7 years of marriage the first of the year. I'm sorry, 6 years of marriage. We've been together for 7 years. We'll be celebrating 6 years of marriage the first of the year.
Don't
Aubrey is
don't.
a father of
I was
two.
gonna say, don't mess that up. She gonna hear this.
Oh yeah, she definitely gonna hear this. I am a father of two. I have a daughter. Her name is Stella. She'll be turning 5 in a couple of weeks, and I have a son. He'll be turning 3 in April. I am a husband. I'm a father. I'm a son. I'm a cousin. I'm a nephew. I'm a friend. I'm a colleague. I wear many hats, and I live a full, intentional life. My friendships are intentional. My relationships are intentional. And not only am I intentional, I'm present.
Mm,
I know when to be there in the room, being where my feet are, and not just atmospherically there. Like I'm intentionally there. I'm intentionally providing motivation, positivity, uplifting people. I'm always down for a good time. I'm always down for a laugh. I love being outdoors. I love going to events, and I like making my people feel good. Um, I'm always down to clown around, do some crazy stuff just to show people that it's good to laugh, it's good to have a good time, and that's what I'm down for.
love it, love it. Is there anything that you wish you had known before you started your journey?
Um, avoid student loans.
Listen, you preaching, Aubrey. You preaching.
Again, when you're a first generation college student, at the time, I didn't really know who to go to in terms of like preparing for college. The pressure of just getting accepted and going was more important than how you're going to pay for this, who's going to help you pay for this. During that time, you didn't want to be the senior that wasn't going to graduate, and then your principal or whoever doing the graduation was like, and going to so and so college. So if I could do it all over again, I would definitely pay more attention to grants, scholarships, and doing more research on the type of schools to go to that provide different opportunities for first generation college students. So um, that would be the only thing that I would do differently.
Okay. Now it's a similar question, but a slightly different question.
Okay.
What advice would you give to the next generation that wants to follow in your footsteps?
Anyone that wants to work in this industry, please take full advantage of all of the access you have to network on social media. Get your brand out there. If someone's doing what you want to do, reach out to them, DM them, find them on LinkedIn, be where they are. If there's an event, especially if there's a free event and you are dying to get on into the industry, be at the event, dress how they dress, talk how they talk. Like learn as much from them as you can. So when it's time to get that opportunity, you're ready. You don't want to just get your feet in the door because you know someone. You want to actually be able to do the work to stay and have longevity. And at this point, you don't have any excuses. Like there's so many ways to reach out to people, to connect with people, for people to see what you're doing, that the technology has advanced so much that you can do anything, anywhere, anytime at this point.
Mm. I don't know, this is just a little bit off, but it's on brand with this. Does the NFL have like any internship programs or anything
Yes.
specifically? Okay.
Yes, the NFL has partnered with HBCUs. There's a lot of opportunities nowadays, more opportunities than I knew of when I was at Bethune-Cookman. So go to NFL.com, go to teamworkonline.com, utilize LinkedIn, go to the ESPN Black Sports Symposium. It's going to be in Atlanta in April. All you have to do is register to get accepted. It's free. There's so many things to do nowadays. There's internships, there's A lot of opportunities out there. So definitely get online and just search HBCU, NFL jobs, internships, opportunities, events, symposiums. There's an endless amount of opportunities.
Love it, love it. And my last question for you, Aubrey, what is your personal motto?
My personal motto.
Words you live by.
So I'm a energy guy in the office. I'm always trying to give perspective or pump my team up. So every day is an opportunity. Seek the joy. There's a million reasons why you shouldn't come to work. There's a million reasons why you don't feel like it, but you have to seek the joy. And that's a journey that I'm always on, no matter what happens at home, no matter what's going on in your personal life. When I'm at work, and I'm there to have a good time. So just make it worthwhile.
Hey, I appreciate your time, Aubrey.
Likewise, Tierney, this was fun. You got me pumped up, so I appreciate you asking to interview me. This was dope.
Oh man, for sure, for sure. Hey, give everybody your socials.
I am Sweet Life AG on Instagram, Facebook, Aubrey Grier, and on Twitter, Sweet Life AG. You can find me there. Yeah, follow me and join the ride.
Hey man, appreciate you. Again, this is your girl T Hardaway, and this is the Did It for the Hood podcast. Thank y'all for tuning in. Make sure y'all tune back in. We always bring the best interviews and the best guests, baby.
Yes, indeed. Hail Wildcats.
Yeah.